Let's talk about your new book, The Rest of Her Life. If you wouldn't mind, sort of set that up for me a little bit. Tell me what it's about and perhaps what its inspiration was.
Okay. Well, it starts out very sad. Right away on the very first page, you have an 18-year-old girl who's a good kid, not, no drugs, no drinking, nothing like that. She's ready to go to college. She's gotten this great scholarship, and she is coming back from picking up her graduation gown, sort of playing around in the car with a friend, and she hits a pedestrian. She runs over and kills a pedestrian. It's another girl in the town that she doesn't know well, but she knows of her. And the story is told from the point of view of the driver's mother watching her daughter go through this. And so it starts on a very sad note, but then from there on, things have to happen. People come in, the mother comes in and really tries to help her through this the best way she can, because this is her daughter, and she's trying to help her daughter with this.
And then magnifies the family dynamic.
Yeah.
And
Right.
the complicated, there's so many different relationships taking place, but the complicated relationship between mother and daughter.
Yes.
Tell me about writing about that, because that must have touched on
Yes.
some, we all have that, well, all women
Yes.
have that relationship, that mother and daughter relationship.
Right.
It can be pretty strenuous.
Right. And one thing I also knew I wanted to do is I don't like to write about plots that happen, okay, this happens to this perfect family, or this happens to this family that never had a problem before this happened. I wanted the plot to happen to a mother and a daughter who already had problems. This mother and this daughter, they already have all this tension that they haven't really figured out yet, and so that complicates things. I'm kind of interested in plots that happen to people who already have lives and complications and issues going on. And in the case of Lee, the mother, and Kara, the daughter, the one who was driving, it seems it turned in sort of a metaphor for what happened with the accident, because the driver says, well, I just never saw her. How did I know I was going to hurt a person? I didn't even see her there. And that turns out to be a metaphor for kind of what's happening in their own relationship.
Well, that then sort of leads us into the next sort of major theme, which is forgiveness and redemption, the struggle for forgiveness, and essentially forgiving ourselves. Tell me about that. Were you thinking about that as you went into the writing of
Definitely, because when I've read news articles in my paper about accidents that happen like this, the victims, the families of the victims, their responses run the gamut of anywhere to, there was one case where the husband of the deceased stood up in court a year later and said to the driver, I hate you, I'll teach my children to hate you, I hate you. It's so non-forgiving, so still full of that pain. And then 6 months later, there was another accident where the father of the victim at the scene of the accident embraced the driver.
Okay.
And so there are all these different, and then I've spoken to people since then. What I've learned going around talking to people about this book is invariably people come up and want to talk to you about, oh, this happened to me, my mother was killed in an accident like this, I killed someone, my son killed someone. It happens to a lot of people because we drive and things can happen in an instant. So as you said, the hardest kind of forgiveness sometimes is to forgive yourself.
I wonder that you don't just want your happy ending. Just make everybody happy. Is it challenging to really let your characters go down the road of experience and let them feel pain and loss?
I think it is, because you don't want it to be so much misery and sadness, but at the same time, I think you have to be true to the story and the characters. Is would they be okay? Would everybody just hold hands and embrace? And in some cases they would. But you want it to be authentic and real, because I guess I'm thinking, well, I'm writing for readers who will perhaps really go through this or something like it. Even if you don't run over someone with a car, you're going to wound someone emotionally by just not paying attention. And I think when I read, I want truth. I want something real. I don't want a sugar-coated ending. And I know some readers do. I think some readers read for entertainment, and some people read for inspiration through the difficulties of life. And I think I tend to write more for the latter group, because that's what I'm interested in. I think it's great to go and laugh and be happy and have a distraction, but I like to read something that's going to help me with a tool. And there's one point where Lee, the mother, is thinking of a short story that she read, and she said, oh, literature can be as useful as a screwdriver. It can really help you through life, because if just like when you talk with your friends about other stories and other things people have gone through, if they're real and authentic and people are honest about their experiences and you don't go for that neat and tidy ending, I think it can be more satisfying for the reader.